Have you ever had that feeling that your life just stopped? Prayers continue, but the answer doesn't come. Work wages, opportunities disappear, money disappears from the account like water between the fingers. At home, everything seems heavy. The plants don't avenge, the environment is loaded, and even sleep has gone away. And the most painful is to feel that, as much faith you have, something invisible is preventing your blessings from coming. This is exactly what happened to Donna Lucia, a follower here from the channel, a devoted woman who every day lit her candle to Santa Rita. But her life was all locked. Her son faced problems, the debts accumulated, and her health only got worse. Until one day, during a visit to a friend, he heard something that changed everything. There are things indoors that block the graces, even without you know. And she started to pay attention. He searched the rooms and found old objects, gifts of people who were no longer well, symbols that looked beautiful but carrying a strange energy. She followed advice. She did a spiritual cleaning with faith in Santa Rita, removed certain objects, and the transformation was impressive. This story is not isolated. Many people live surrounded by small details that spiritually close the ways. And that's why I make you this alert today, in the name of faith. If you want Santa Rita's blessings to enter your home, you need to know what is preventing it. Stay with me, because I will show you exactly what needs to be removed from your home and how to do a powerful spiritual cleaning. If you got here, you can be sure it was no coincidence. Santa Rita is calling you to something bigger. Before continuing, you are already subscribed here to the channel and activates the tinker, because every week I bring prayers, teachings, and alerts that can open paths, restore your faith, and transform your life. If spirituality is important to you, this channel is your place. Let's go together on this journey with Santa Rita. My dear friends, I need you to pay close attention, because what I am about to share with you can completely transform your spiritual life. Santa Rita, the patron saint of impossible causes, has been sending signs through the faithful for centuries about the importance of maintaining a spiritually clean environment. She knows that our homes are not just physical structures, but sacred temples where our souls commune with the divine. However, many of us unknowingly fill these sacred spaces with elements that create spiritual static, blocking the clear channel through which God's blessings flow into our lives. Think about it for a moment. Your house is where you start and end each day. This is where you pray, where you rest, where you gather with the family, where it seeks comfort in times of difficulty. If this sacred space is committed to negative energies or spiritual obstacles, how can you expect all the power of divine grace to operate in your life? Saint Rita understands this deeply because she herself turned her own home into a sanctuary of faith, despite facing seemingly impossible circumstances. The truth is that many believers live in spiritual poverty not because God does not want to bless them, but because they inadvertently created blockages in their own sacred spaces. These blocks can be physical objects, spiritual habits, or even mental patterns that interfere with the natural flow of divine grace. Santa Rita's message is clear. Remove these barriers and watch the floodgates of the sky open in your life. Right here in the comments now, Santa Rita, open my ways. This simple act of faith, even virtual, is a way of declaring that you accept this spiritual cleaning and that you are ready to live a new time. And if you have felt that there is something wrong in your home, also comments what has bothered you. I rid everything and I will pray with you. Now you know that feeling of fighting, and yet seeing prosperity passes off. Seeing family health weakening, relationships become sources of bitterness and conflict, money that is never enough, peace that never seems to be realized. It is a tiredness that goes beyond the body. It is a tiredness of the soul. You look at other people's lives and ask yourself, what do they have that I don't have? What do they do that I don't do? You pray. You go to church. You turn on your candle with devotion. You talk to God and your heart saints. But the answer seems to be silence. A stillness that sometimes confuses with abandonment. You feel forgotten, as if your prayer were just one in 1,000,000, lost in the immensity of heaven. This pain, this anguish of not seeing the fruit of your faith, is one of the most difficult trials that a prayer woman can face. It is the pain of feeling a stranger within life itself, a spectator of the blessings that seem intended only for others. It is for you, who carries this pain in silence, who feels in this spiritual desert, that today's message is directed. Saint Rita, who knew the depth of suffering and waiting, takes us by the hand to show us that the answer may be closer than we imagine. Think for a moment in a simple object, an object we all have at home, a plant vase. Imagine a beautiful ceramic vase, painted with care. Inside it, you put the best land, the richest fertilizer, and the seed of a rose, the flower of Santa Rita. You watered carefully, put it in the sun just right, you protect from the wind, you do everything right. But without you knowing, at the bottom of the vase, mixed with the earth, there is a stone, a large, porous, and sick stone. The seed even tries to sprout, the root tries to grow, but she finds this barrier. The stone prevents the root from deepening to seek nutrients. The stone contaminates the earth around it with its dryness, with its hardness. And the pink, no matter how much you take care of it, never flourish. It becomes weak, yellowish, sad. The life that was contained in it cannot surface. My sister, our house is this vase. Our faith, our prayer, our devotion, our water, the sun and the fertilizer. God's blessing is the seed of the rose, ready to bloom in miracles. But often, without realizing it, we allow spiritual stones to hive in the back of our home, in our daily lives, and these stones are blocking the roots of our happiness, preventing the flowers of divine grace from disguising our lives. Today, we will learn to identify and, with courage and faith, to remove each of these stones. The history of Santa Rita de Cassia is living proof that the transformation of a home is possible, even in the most terrible circumstances. Rita's house was not a sanctuary of peace, it was a battlefield. She was married to a man of violent temperament, Paolo Mancini, a man involved in bloody disputes and revenge. Imagine the environment of that home. A place carried by tension, fear, anger, harsh words, perhaps even the threats. Imagine the heart of Rita, a woman of deep prayer and sweetness, living in this darkness. She could have given up. It could have conformed to a home without God, without peace. But she didn't do it. Every day, in silence, as she took care of her chores, she turned her work into prayer. Each meal he prepared was seasoned with a prayer for her husband's conversion. Every corner of the house she cleaned was a supplication for God to purify the souls that lived there too. She did not fight screams, did not respond to violence with more violence. She fought darkness with the only weapon that darkness cannot overcome, the light of persevering faith. For 18 years, Rita prayed. For 18 years, she watered that hostile home with her tears and her hope. And the miracle happened. Paolo Mancini, the rude and violent man, was touched by the grace of God through the patience and love of his wife. He converted, abandoned the life of feud, and became a fear of God. Rita's home was transformed from a grudge fortress into a peacemaker. Saint Rita teaches us that our home is the first territory we should conquer to God. And this achievement begins with the removal of what does not belong to it, what prevents its grace from operating. She knows, from her own, what it is to live in a spiritually loaded environment and knows the way to purify him. Now, with the wisdom of Santa Rita to guide us, let's go through our house and our hearts and identify the 7 stones, the 7 blocks that may be preventing their blessings. I ask you to listen not with your mind, but with your soul open. The difference between a blessed house and an overloaded house is deep and measurable. A blessed house radiates peace the moment you enter. There is a sense of harmony, protection, and divine presence that visitors can feel immediately. Air seems lighter, conversations flow more positively, and family members experience greater union and understanding. Prayer in such a house has more power because there are no spiritual obstacles interfering with the connection with the divine. In contrast, a loaded house looks heavy, chaotic, and spiritually stagnant. Discussions seem to climb faster, family members are annoyed for no apparent reason, and despite sincere prayers, change seems difficult. These houses often have a revolving door, where as soon as one question is solved, another arises. The spiritual atmosphere is cloudy, making it difficult to penetrate divine light and the transformation of circumstances. Saint Rita teaches us that recognizing these spiritual signs is the first step to transformation. When you perceive persistent negativity, recurring conflicts, financial difficulties that seem to have no logical explanation, or a general feeling that your prayers are beating the ceiling, they can be indicators that your home environment needs spiritual attention. The saint herself has undergone a tremendous transformation when she aligned her life space with her deepest spiritual convictions. But here is what is really remarkable. The moment you begin to remove these spiritual blocks, you realize immediate changes in the atmosphere of your home. Family members are calmer, conversations are more harmonious, and there is a tangible feeling that divine protection has increased. This is not imagination. It is the real power of creating a sacred space in alignment with God's will. Now let's examine the 7 specific items or habits that can block the blessings in your home, according to the wisdom Santa Rita would share with us today. Understanding these blocks is crucial because each one represents a different type of spiritual interference that can prevent God's grace from flowing freely in their life. The first great block consists of objects that carry negative spiritual energy or pagan symbolism. This includes items purchased in places with heavy spiritual atmospheres, objects associated with non-Christian spiritual practices, or decorative items that subtly promote values contrary to their faith. These objects act as spiritual magnets, attracting influences that oppose peace and blessings you seek to cultivate. Saint Rita would encourage you to be careful about what you allow you to enter your sacred space, choosing instead items that raise your spirit and remember the goodness of God. The second block is to maintain a disorganized and dirty environment. Physical disorder creates spiritual disorder, blocking the natural flow of positive energy throughout your home. When your life space is chaotic, your spiritual life often reflects this same disorder. Santa Rita understood the connection between the external order and the internal peace. A clean, organized house creates space for clear thoughts, quiet prayers, and divine inspiration. This shows respect for the gifts God has given him and creates an environment where his presence can be more easily felt and experienced. The third block involves the power of words and the emotional atmosphere. Homes full of constant criticism, discussions, hard words, or negative conversations become spiritually toxic environments. These negative language patterns create invisible barriers that repel divine blessings. Saint Rita herself knew the destructive power of angry words and the healing power of kind and faithful conversations. When her home becomes a place of encouragement, gratitude, and positive communication, she becomes a magnet for God's favor and blessings. The fourth blockade is the absence of regular prayer and spiritual silence. Homes that never experience the sacred break from prayer or meditation lack the spiritual foundation necessary for divine connection. Without these moments of intentional communion with God, his home becomes just a physical shelter rather than a spiritual sanctuary. Saint Rita made prayer the foundation of her family life, understanding that consistent spiritual practice creates an atmosphere where miracles can flourish. The fifth lock consists of broken objects and accumulated damaged items. They represent spiritual stagnation and may symbolically reflect areas of your life that need healing or renewal. Broken items that remain without repair convey a message of neglect and defeat rather than hope and restoration. Santa Rita would encourage you to fix these items as an act of faith in renewal or remove them to make room for new blessings to enter your life. The sixth block involves images or decorations with obscure or negative symbolism. This includes works of art, photographs, or decorative items that evoke sadness, fear, violence, or spiritual confusion. These images influence your subconscious and can create an atmosphere of weight rather than hope. Saint Rita would recommend that you surround yourself with images that inspire faith, hope, love, and divine connection, creating visual reminders of goodness and God's power. The seventh and perhaps more significant blockade is the absence of gratitude and active faith. When her house lacks expressions of gratitude and demonstrations of trust in God's provision, she becomes spiritually arid. This includes complaining instead of praising, focusing on abundance rather than abundance, and expressing doubt instead of faith. Santa Rita's life exemplified radical gratitude even in the midst of huge challenges, and this attitude of gratitude became the basis for a miraculous transformation. Each of these blocks acts as a spiritual dam, preventing the free flow of divine grace in your life. But here's the beautiful truth. Removing these blocks is often simpler than you think. It requires intention, discernment, and willingness to align your environment with your spiritual values. Santa Rita's intercession can guide him in this process, helping him identify what needs to be removed and what needs to be added to create a truly blessed space of life. The process of transformation begins with prayer and spiritual discernment. Before you make any change, spend time in silent conversation with God, asking for wisdom to see your home with spiritual eyes. Walk through each room with the intention of feeling its spiritual atmosphere. Observe what brings you peace and what creates restlessness. Trust your spiritual intuition when evaluating every item and aspect of your life space. When starting to remove the locks, do it with reverence and intention. It is not about throwing away goods carelessly, but of making conscious choices that honor your spiritual journey. Some items may need to be discarded, others may be relocated to less prominent positions, and others may simply need to be blessed or consecrated for sacred purposes. The process of blessing your home must be done with great faith and pure intention. Start by cleaning each room well, not only physically, but with the spiritual intention of creating a sacred space. If possible, use holy water blessed by a priest, and while spreading around the house, pray for the protection and blessing of God for each room. Ask Santa Rita to intercede for your family's spiritual well-being and to make your home a lighthouse of faith in your community. Create specific areas in your home dedicated to prayer and spiritual reflection. It can be a small altar with religious images, a comfortable chair near a window where you can pray and meditate, or a family reunion space where you can share faith together. These dedicated spaces become focal points of spiritual energy and remind everyone in their home of their commitment to live according to divine principles. Think of establishing new spiritual rhythms in your house that invite God's presence more fully. This may include daily family prayers, weekly blessings at home, regular reading of the scriptures, or monthly spiritual cleaning rituals. These practices create a continuous spiritual impulse and prevent negative energies from accumulating over time. Remember that this transformation is not a unique event, but a continuous process of spiritual maintenance. Just as you regularly clean your home physically, you should also take care of your spiritual cleaning. This means being aware of what you allow to enter your sacred space and maintain the spiritual practices that keep the divine connection strong. The results of this spiritual cleaning are often immediate and dramatic. Families report better relationships, unexpected financial advances, cure of old diseases, and a general feeling that their prayers are being heard and answered more promptly. Children are quieter and cooperatives. Weddings experience renewed harmony, and the whole family seems to work under divine protection and favor. Santa Rita's intercession is particularly powerful during this process because it understands the challenges of creating a sacred space amid tough circumstances. His own home has been transformed from a place of conflict and fights into a sanctuary of faith and peace. She intimately knows the power to align her environment with her spiritual aspirations and can guide him through the process with supernatural wisdom and grace. When you board this spiritual journey of home transformation, remember that you are not just changing your physical environment, but creating a legacy of faith to future generations. His home becomes a place where God's presence is welcomed and honored, where miracles are expected and received, and where the impossible becomes possible through the power of faith. The way forward, of course, my friends. Remove what is blocking your miracle. Bring the wisdom of Santa Rita to the heart and bravely evaluate his space of life through spiritual eyes. Be willing to make the necessary changes to create a true sacred space in your home. Trust that, as you align your environment with your faith, God will respond with abundant blessings that will transform not only your home, but your whole life. This is your time to break free from spiritual stagnation that has limited your blessings. Saint Rita is interceding for you right now, asking God to give you wisdom, courage, and determination to create the spiritually blessed home you deserve. Your miracle is waiting on the other side of these simple but deep changes. If this message has touched your heart and opened your eyes to the spiritual potential of your space, share it with others who may be facing similar challenges. Like this video to help us reach more people who need to hear Santa Rita's message of hope and transformation. Comment below to share your own experiences with the creation of blessed spaces, and we will build a community of believers who support each other on this spiritual journey. Remember, you have the power to remove all the obstacles that intervene between you and the abundant life that God wants to give you. Start today. Trust Santa Rita's intercession and get ready to witness the miraculous transformation that awaits you.